Once upon a time, in a small village called Umoma in Enugu State, there lived an old woman named Ezenwanyi. She was 95 years old, with a face like wrinkled leather and eyes that shone like bright stars. Her voice was soft, but everyone in the village knew she was not someone to ignore. People whispered stories about her power so strong it could make the earth tremble or the river flow backward. Even the bravest men in Umoma would not dare to cross her path. Hello everyone, my name is Adugo, and you are watching the African Tales channel by Adugo. Before we dive into today's video, please kindly click on that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, let's get into the story. Children in the village were always warned, do not look Ezenwanyi in the eye, or she might see into your soul. They would run past her house, a small clay hut that sat under a giant baobab tree at the edge of the village, with the sound of wind chimes dancing in the breeze. The sound was beautiful but eerie, making people shiver even in the hottest days. Ezenwanyi was known as the mother of secrets because she always seemed to know everyone's business. If someone got sick, people would whisper, "It's Ezenwanyi. She must have done something." If a young man could not find work or a young woman could not get married, Ezenwanyi was the blame. Yet, no one dared to confront her. One sunny afternoon, Akachi, a young man in the village, walked past Ezenwanyi's hut with his friend, Amaka. "Do you believe the stories they tell about her?" Amaka asked. Akachi shrugged. "I don't know. I heard she has a room full of strange things. Bones, feathers, and charms hanging from the ceiling. They say she can speak to spirits." Amaka's eyes widened. "I heard she can even turn into a cat at night and sneak around, spying on people." Just then, they heard a creak. The door of Ezenwanyi's hut opened, and out she stepped. She looked directly at them with a piercing gaze. Akachi and Amaka froze in fear, unable to move. Ezenwanyi smiled slowly. "Akachi, Amaka," she said in a voice as soft as a whisper, but as strong as thunder. "Be careful what you ask about. Sometimes, secrets are best left uncovered." With that, she turned and went back into her hut, leaving the two friends trembling. Back in the village, rumors spread quickly. They said that Ezenwanyi had cursed Akachi and Amaka, that she was angry they had tried to uncover her secrets. In the following days, strange things began to happen. Akachi started having strange dreams where he was lost in a dark forest, with shadows watching him from every corner. Amaka began to feel weak and sick, even though the village healer could find nothing wrong with her. Everyone started to worry. The elders called a meeting and decided that someone needed to speak to Ezenwanyi to find out what was happening, but who would be brave enough to confront her? So days passed, and no one volunteered. At last, a young girl named Ada, known for her bravery and kind heart, stepped forward. "I will go," she said, her voice shaking, but her eyes steady. Maybe Ezenwanyi just needs someone to listen. Ada walked through the village, her heart pounding. She was scared, but she felt a strange pull towards Ezenwanyi's heart, as if something deep inside her was guiding her. She reached the door and knocked softly. To her surprise, the door creaked open on its own. Inside, the air smelled of herbs and something else. Something mysterious in the dim light. She could see Ezenwanyi sitting in the center of the room, surrounded by charms and strange symbols painted on the walls. "Come in, Ada," Ezenwanyi said, as if she had been expecting her. Ada took a deep breath and stepped inside. Ezenwanyi, everyone in the village is afraid. Strange things are happening, and people think it's because of you. Ezenwanyi's eyes softened. She looked at Ada with a strange sadness. Sometimes, people fear what they don't understand, child, she said. And sometimes, fear creates its own causes. Just then, the wind outside began to howl, and the chimes clanged louder, echoing through the village. The villagers looked up frightened as dark clouds gathered in the sky. The sky grew dark, as if night had fallen early, and a cold wind swept through the village, rustling leaves and sending shivers down every spine. People gathered in small groups, clutching each other and looking toward Ifeanyi's hut in fear. Inside, Ada felt the temperature drop, yet Ezenwanyi sat still, calm as ever. She gestured to Ada to sit across from her on a woven mat. Ada obeyed, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. "Do not be afraid, child," Ezenwanyi said gently. Her voice was steady, like a deep river flowing in silence. People believe what they wish to believe. They don't see that sometimes they create the very things they fear. She gazed deeply into Ada's eyes, as though looking beyond her, into the secrets of her heart. Then why don't you show them you mean no harm?" Ada asked, barely able to hold Ezenwanyi's gaze. "Maybe if you showed them kindness, they wouldn't be so afraid." Ezenwanyi smiled, a sad and knowing smile. "Ah, Ada, kindness does not always erase fear. In this village, fear runs deep. I am an old woman with no family and a heart full of secrets. People will see what they want to see." Her gaze fell to the ground as if weighed down by the memories she carried. "But if I show you my story, child, will you promise to keep it safe?" she asked. "Some truths are not for the faint of heart." Ada swallowed, her curiosity and fear mingling into something powerful. She nodded slowly. "I promise, Ezenwanyi. Show me." Ezenwanyi took a deep breath, and with a single wave of her hand, threw a handful of white powder into the air. A mist rose, filling the room, and Ada's eyes grew wide as saints began to appear within the fog. She saw a younger Ezenwanyi, a beautiful woman with laughter in her eyes and a heart as bright as the morning sun. She was dancing by the riverside, surrounded by friends. But suddenly, the image shifted. There was darkness, a gathering of angry faces, a night full of storm and fire. The villagers were shouting, pointing fingers, blaming her for sickness and misfortune that had fallen upon them. They believed she had caused them, though she had done nothing wrong. Ezenwanyi's voice, soft and sad, filled the room. "They called me a witch, said I brought misfortune. They forced me to live alone, to keep my distance. They wanted someone to blame, and I was the easiest target. From then on, I accepted their fear and wrapped myself in mystery. I let them believe what they wished, for it was better than being hurt again." Ada felt tears fill her eyes. "So, you never meant any harm?" Ezenwanyi reached out, her old wrinkled hand resting on Ada's. "No, child. But when people cast you as a monster, sometimes you begin to look like one just to protect yourself." Suddenly, they heard footsteps outside and voices whispering. The mist faded and Ada realized the villagers had gathered around the hut, clutching sticks and torches. She looked at Ezenwanyi, panic flashing in her eyes. "Please," she whispered, "let me talk to them. Let me make them understand." Ezenwanyi looked at her sadly. "The heart can only believe what it is ready to accept, Ada. Go if you wish, but know that they may not listen. With a trembling heart, Ada stood and opened the door. She stepped out to face the villagers, who looked at her with suspicion and fear. "Stay back, Ada," called Amaka's mother. "Ezenwanyi has cast a spell on you." "No, she hasn't," Ada shouted, her voice stronger than she felt. "Ezenwanyi is not what you think. She has done nothing wrong. You are all scared of her, but that fear isn't real. It is only in your minds." The crowd murmured, some glancing at each other with uncertain looks. But then a man at the front, his face dark with anger, shouted, "She cursed my crops. She cursed my children. We've all suffered because of her." Others began to shout in agreement, their voices a rising tide of fear and anger. Ada's heart sank. She looked back at Ezenwanyi, whose face remained calm, almost resigned. At that moment, thunder cracked above them, and lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating Ezenwanyi's figure in the doorway. She raised her hand and the crowd fell silent, staring at her in awe and terror. "My children," she said, her voice carrying over the storm. "I have lived alone because that is what you asked of me. I have accepted your hatred, your anger, your fear. But now I only wish for peace. I am old and tired, and soon I will pass on. But I ask you, will you ever forgive me for sins I did not commit?" The villagers shifted uncomfortably, guilt creeping into their hearts. But before anyone could speak, a flash of lightning struck the ground nearby, and the crowd gasped in fear. They turned and ran back to their homes, shouting and scrambling, leaving Ada and Ezenwanyi alone in the silence. Ada turned to Ezenwanyi, her heart heavy. "Will they ever change?" she asked softly. Ezenwanyi sighed. "Change takes time, Ada. Sometimes, people need a lifetime to open their hearts." The storm faded, leaving only a gentle drizzle. Ada sat with Ezenwanyi through the night, keeping their company as she had never had before. In the early morning light, a sense of calm filled the air, as if the village itself had finally taken a deep breath. But little did Ada know, this night was only the beginning of a journey, one that would test her courage, her kindness, and the secrets of her own heart. As the morning sun rose over Umuoma, Ada sat by Ezenwanyi, her thoughts racing. She could not shake the feeling that something was about to change, something deep and powerful. She looked at Ezenwanyi, who sat quietly, her eyes distant and filled with memories only she could see. "Ezenwanyi," Ada whispered, "is there something you haven't told me? Something more that the villagers don't understand?" Ezenwanyi nodded slowly, her gaze still fixed on the horizon. "There is always more, child. My life is like a river with hidden depths, places that no one has ever reached." She paused, as if weighing her words carefully. "You see, I am not just an old woman with stories. I am the last keeper of something very old, something that has been in my family for generations." Ada leaned forward, her eyes wide with wonder. "What is it? Is it magic?" Ezenwanyi chuckled softly. "Magic? Some would call it that, but it is more than tricks or spells. It is knowledge. Knowledge of the land, the spirits, and the things that lie between life and death. My family has always been protectors of this knowledge, and it comes with a responsibility that is heavier than you can imagine." Ada shivered, a strange mixture of fear and excitement bubbling inside her. "But why didn't you tell the village? Maybe they would respect you if they knew." Ezenwanyi shook her head. "Power does strange things to people, Ada. When they see strength, they are quick to either bow down or destroy it. I chose to stay silent, to live as a shadow, for the safety of everyone. I learned long ago that some truths are best kept hidden. She paused, her expression softening as she looked at Ada. But you have a pure heart, child. That is rare, and perhaps it is time that someone else understands. Ezenwanyi rose slowly, her joints creaking as she motioned for Ada to follow her. They walked to the back of her hut, where a small unmarked door was hidden behind a cloth curtain. Ada had never noticed it before, and a thrill of curiosity ran through her as she stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, with shelves filled with strange objects, old scrolls, jars of dry herbs, feathers, stones and charms hanging from the ceiling. In the center of the room was a large circular stone with markings carved into it, symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. Ezenwanyi placed her hand on the stone, and the symbols pulsed with a gentle light. Ada's eyes widened as she felt a warmth spread through the room, a feeling that was both comforting and strange. "This stone," Ezenwanyi said softly, "is the heartstone of Umuoma. It holds the spirit of the village, its past, present and future. Every great secret, every sorrow and every joy lives within it." She looked at Ada, her face serious, but it is also fragile. If it falls into the wrong hands, its power could be twisted into something terrible. Ada could barely breathe as she stared at the heartstone. "What do you mean, wrong hands?" Ezenwanyi's expression darkened. "Long ago, there was a man named Obinna. He was once my friend, my equal. We studied the ancient ways together, and for a time, he understood the balance between power and humility. But soon, he wanted more. He saw the heartstone as a weapon, something to use for control. When I refused, he turned against me. We had a great fight, and in the end, he was banished from Umuoma." Ada's heart pounded as she listened, captivated by the tale. "Is he still alive?" Ezenwanyi nodded slowly. "I do not know for certain, but I have felt a presence recently, a shadow moving closer. If it is Obinna, then he will seek the heartstone again, and he will stop at nothing to take it." Ada felt a chill run through her. "But what can we do?" Ezenwanyi looked at her with a fierceness Ada had never seen before. "I am old and my strength is fading. That is why I need you, Ada. I cannot protect this village alone anymore. You have courage and a heart that understands kindness and truth. Will you help me keep Umuoma safe?" Ada hesitated, fear swelling in her mind. But then she thought of her family, her friends and all the people in the village who lived their lives without knowing the danger that might be coming. She looked up at Ezenwanyi, determination in her eyes. "Yes," she said firmly, "I will help you." Ezenwanyi smiled, and a strange warmth filled Ada's chest, as if a spark had been lit inside her. "Good, but be warned, Ada. Protecting the heartstone is no simple task. You will need to learn the ancient ways, to understand the spirits, and to see beyond what is visible. Are you ready for this journey?" Ada nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "I am ready." Ezenwanyi placed her hands on Ada's shoulder, and in that moment, Ada felt a wave of energy flow through her. She felt as though a door had opened within her mind, a door to a world she had never known existed. She could hear whispers in the air, see faint lights dancing around them, and feel a sense of connection to the earth beneath her feet. Their moment was broken by the sound of footsteps outside. Ada and Ezenwanyi turned, tension filling the air. Ezenwanyi's face hardened. Stay back, child. If it is who I think it is, we may need to be prepared. The door creaked open and a tall figure stepped inside. His face was shadowed, but Ada could see his eyes glinting like cold steel. There was a power in his presence, a dark and dangerous energy that made her blood run cold. "Hello, old friend," the man said, his voice smooth and menacing. "It has been a long time, but I see you are still holding on to that stone. I've come to take what is rightfully mine." Ezenwanyi stood her ground, her voice steady. "Obinna, you know you cannot have it. You do not understand its power, only its danger." Obinna laughed, a low and chilling sound. "Ah, but that's where you're wrong, Ezenwanyi. I understand it better than you know. And I think it's time that Umoma saw the truth of real power." Ada clenched her fists, fear and anger surging within her. She had to help Ezenwanyi, but she didn't know how. Yet, something deep within her stirred, a strength she hadn't known she possessed. Ezenwanyi looked at her, a glint of pride in her eyes. "Stand firm, Ada. Trust in what you've learned." As Obinna stepped closer, the air grew heavy with tension, like the calm before a storm. Ada knew that whatever happened next would change her life forever, and perhaps the fate of Umoma itself. Obinna took a slow, deliberate step forward, his eyes locked onto the hearthstone. The air in the room seemed to thicken, heavy with an energy Ada could barely understand, but felt deep in her bones. She sensed something dark swirling around him, a kind of power that didn't come from love or respect, but from something twisted and hungry. Ezenwanyi held her ground, her gaze fierce and unwavering. "Obinna, leave this place. The hearthstone's power is not meant for those with a heart like yours. It belongs to Umoma, to the ones who honor it." Obinna sneered, a twisted smile forming on his lips. "Honor?" He scoffed, his voice dripping with contempt. "This village cast you aside like a pariah, Ezenwanyi. They feared you, blamed you for every misfortune, and now you protect them?" He shook his head, laughing coldly. "Foolishness! This stone can give you anything you desire. Wealth, control, freedom from all their fear." Ezenwanyi remained silent, her face calm. Ada could see a sadness in her eyes, but there was also a strength there, something even Obinna's words could not touch. Obinna took another step forward, raising his hand towards the hearthstone. "It is time I took what is rightfully mine." He hissed, "I've waited too long, Ezenwanyi." Ada's heart pounded as she looked from Obinna to Ezenwanyi, unsure of what to do. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, but suddenly she remembered Ezenwanyi's words. "Trust in what you've learned." Taking a deep breath, Ada stepped forward, putting herself between Obinna and the hearthstone. Her hands trembled, but she clenched them into fists, holding her ground. "No," she said, her voice shaking but determined. "You can't have it, Obinna. You don't deserve it." Obinna's eyes narrowed, his gaze piercing through her. "And who are you to stop me, little girl?" He sneered. "You think you understand power? You are just a child, lost in things beyond your comprehension." But Ada's fear began to dissolve, replaced by a strange sense of calm. She looked back at Ezenwanyi, who gave her a small nod of encouragement. With that, Ada felt a surge of confidence rise within her. A strength she hadn't known was there. "I may not understand everything," she said, her voice growing steadier. "But I know that power isn't meant to be used to hurt people. And this stone belongs to Umoma, to the village, not to you. Obinna's face twisted with anger, and he raised his hand, a dark energy crackling at his fingertips. You will regret standing in my way, he growled.